Hello, checking in with chapters 56 to 60 of He Knew He Was Right, which gets me all caught up for this week of my trollop, my lonely trollop read along, where uh, I'm reading this on my own apparently. Maybe there's other people in the universe who are reading it. And the person who and Steve, who kind of started off the thing, did kind of warn us at the beginning that, this is what he was going to try, but it might not happen. And he's been having some tough time here. So I will let that go. So yes, listening to this section of the book, we get, what do we get? We get, first we start off with the lovebirds in Venice, a glasscock and the American chick are not getting along well, in the sense of there seems to be some major cultural stuff, and she seems to apparently just try and tease him because he's getting made basically the object of derision, of like saying you are the old withered husk of the past and we are the future. And she sort of says, yeah, you are. And you should, if you're going to hang out with me, you should, or if you're going to get an American wife, you should get used to that kind of talk. And it's like, oh, okay. And that sort of sets him off, and that's not, rightly kind of probably a little bit miffed by that, and walks off. So that's that. We get stuff with Dorothy where things come to a head that Brooke Burgess sends a love letter to her, and her aunt, Miss Standish, says, "What's in the letter?" And she has to kind of cop to it that it's a love letter, which she's like, "Oh, he's a fool. There's no way he should ever even consider marrying you," which is, it's the whole, you don't have any money, you're not going to improve his standing sort of thing. And she probably can't help but take it personally. She ends up going home. She's, Miss Standish is very kind of firm of like, he should not do that. If he does do that, there'll be consequences. And she's like, fuck yeah. If she has major stuff to hold over him, she will not let him inherit her money if he goes against her. And she does. She writes a letter to him saying, "No, I release you entirely from this. I can't marry you. Your aunt, my aunt is completely against it." And he writes back, says, "No, I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to marry you. I don't care." And so that's kind of a good positive thing there. Trelevane, Louis Trevane is sending tons of letters to Basil saying, he wants him basically to get in there and get his son from the wife. And they're just in the midst of talking over his latest letter, and the wife saying, like, "You really need to back away from this guy. This is not right." And, he's crossing the line, basically. At which point he actually does show up. And, he's just like, I don't think I can particularly do that for you, sir, kind of thing. And he's like, Trevane is like, he's friendless. He has nobody. And unfortunately, the last thing he asked Basil is like, "Well, do you think they've seen each other?" And Basil is such he's the cop. It's like everyone's guilty. And he's like, "Well, I don't have any evidence they have. I've been watching both of them, and there's no evidence they have. But of course they have been. They must have been seeing each other," which really just sends Trevane off in another, ugh. And he ends up going down to the outhouse's place and demanding to see his boy and to see her. And she and Emily actually, for her part, really tries to sort of patch things up, not say anything negative, no matter how provoked by his insane jealousy. And But, you know, in the end, he's like, he tries to extract from her yet again a promise that you will not see that man. And she can't cave. She will not cave. And I mean, there's a part of me that thinks like, yeah, it's like he's insanely jealous about this guy. There will be another guy. It is all focused on one guy at the moment, but there would be another guy. If you said no to the, you know, he said like, oh, I'll never see this guy, he would just slowly control your life more and more and more and more. And it's also just basically casting her as someone who needs to be extracted to that promise. You start to actually sympathize more with Emily the more it goes along. So it's like, yeah, they're not going to be seen, and he wants his Lewis Jr. And you know, they do take the boy down to him, and the boy is just like, you know, he can tell that there's all this stuff and that this guy is making his mother miserable. You know, he knows more than what the adults realize, and it's you know, in some ways this has been a really difficult Trollope novel, because it feels like it's, you know, it's I haven't ever seen Kramer versus Kramer, but it's like it's a divorce movie. It's a divorce novel in an era where you don't have divorce, and it's just really unpleasant, and you just don't want to be with these two characters, him especially. And I don't know if I see him as insane. I think this section, especially another struggle with him coming in, this is where he does have that kind of line of like, he knew he was right, but maybe he wasn't acting correctly. is the line. I should go back and extract that particular passage out of there to talk about in the review, because I guess if you're going to talk about Trevane, this would be the line. This would be the section that you would talk about. It still doesn't. It's I think about, there's the Scottish lord in one of these who is also super controlling dude. And it's almost not so much to do with jealousy as it's got to do with just being super controlling. I don't know. Yeah, like micromanaging his wife. There's definitely something there of like, you know, I have this beautiful bird of a woman in my hand, and I'm just going to hold on to it so tight that I'm going to just try and crush the life out of it, that it has to peck at my finger so it can escape, that kind of idea. Yeah. So, yeah, the side characters are fine. You know, Dorothy is definitely, you know, the plucky young heroine, but boy, the central couple is just like, bleh. It's just not pleasant to be with, which is an interesting place to be with Trollope. And I guess that's about all I have to say on this set score for now. And I mean, I guess you could call, you could Lewis Trevane, you could kind of compare him with Miss Standish, who is also very controlling. She has the power, she has this money, and is able to kind of control the peoples in her life, and can quarrel with a lot of them. And a lot of them just sort of rebel against her stuff. And it's like, you know, you said no, Dorothea said no. You know, she's continually trying to kind of shape everybody's lives according to her lights. And again, it's another bit of a tyranny there, which you just don't come off very well at. So those are two figures to think about, I guess, in this book. Because, you know, maybe it's more of a book to think about than it is to enjoy in some ways. All right, I will leave it there for this week of Trollope. All right, more videos later.